Five Nights at Freddy's sister location sure has some interesting moments.
It's a strange thing.
But how well has it aged since its release over 7 years ago? Jesus, has it already been that long? For those of us that were active in the community back then, we know damn well that this was a radical change of pace for the traditional FNaF formula from both the story and gameplay perspective. Now, I'm gonna ignore all of the praises and critiques that this game has received over the course of time and answer the simple question of how well has FNAF sister location aged and how does it stand next to the other staples of this insanely large franchise. If you like, do a sub. I'm gonna be tackling this in a way where I'm basically gonna go through the entire game like some twisted speedrun and generally see just how the graphics, gameplay, and feel stand today. So at the start of the game we get this neat little cutscene, a purple guy talking to some no-name executive about his porn, about his animatronics, and then an ominous cut happens.
With all due respect, those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton.
Now that's how you start a game. The beginning of almost every night starts in this elevator, and in traditional Scott fashion, even this cutscene isn't spared from Easter eggs. One thing that Scott never stopped doing in any of his games is filling them up with extremely hard to find Easter eggs, and I applaud him for that. We walk through this vent thingy and into the main control module fucking thing, and this is where I have the first issue with the game. It feels like the first night is kind of useless. Shut up, you're wrong! Let me explain. I don't know how anyone thought that this was entertaining when it was released. Need I remind you that this is motherfucking Five Nights at Freddy's we're talking about, and being uneasy is the whole fucking point of the game! But regardless, after that we get more story building, cutscenes. These are fine. Actually, to make the video more streamlined, all of the cutscenes this game has haven't aged a single nanosecond. They still have incredible lighting, models, and camera work, which I could still see being made today, and nobody would guess that it's 7 years old. Anyways, onto the actual meat of the game. This is the part of the game where you are introduced to the most common gameplay of this game. You have this long-ass empty room. Go fuck yourself, get to that door over there. First time you play this is fucking scary as balls, but the more time passes, you just get more and more frustrated every time you screw up until eventually you throw yourself off a fucking cliff. I get that this was the game where Scott threw random shit at the wall to see what would stick, and this is a perfect example of what didn't. This is the place where you can also recognize the fact that the entire game has this weird warp around the edges to give a more rounded field of view. I've never seen anyone talk about it, but man, does it distract me sometimes. I know I've just praised this game for its visuals, but this warping fucking thing really makes the game feel slightly older in my opinion. It kinda reminds me of those old monitors where the screen bulges out for whatever fucking reason, and I probably associated with that. Now this is also where I gotta mention the other major thing with this game. Weird ass jump scares. As I mentioned in my other video, I have zero fucking clue what to think of them. Like from an aesthetic standpoint, they're still pretty good. The faceplate's opening and the models are top notch. Maybe a little bit too much wiring, but still pretty cool. My main gripe I have with them, however, is that the sound effect doesn't really fit the jump scares. Like it's too loud and too gritty, which is totally what I think a good jump scare should be. But I think this goes a little too overboard with it. But you just lowered the sound settings. Yeah, well, fuck you. Then I won't be able to hear anything else from the game because I will maybe get jump scared. Sit your ass down, I'm better than you. Shut the fuck up, shut the fuck. Night 3 introduces two major elements that I think were incredibly solid additions, and I have zero clue why one of them was specific to this game and the other one was specific to this game and Pizzeria Simulator. The first thing is that this game forces you to get close and personal to the animatronics. This is honestly a very rare type of horror that kind of forces you to combat your fear against these mythical beings. The entire game makes it incredibly explicit that you should avoid these things at all costs necessary. Well, I mean, who could blame them? These things scream murder robots. I wouldn't be stepping one fucking inch into this facility. I wouldn't say that this was revolutionary, but it certainly was the correct step into newer forms of horror for the FNaF franchise, and I would say that it was fairly effective. Why Scott didn't continue with this, except Pizzeria Simulator with the interrogation thing, cutscene, minigame, I don't know what the fuck it's called, this thing, which also used the same type of horror very effectively. The other major thing I was talking about is this. You have to get jump scare here in order to progress the game. Yeah, sounds stupid, right? The entire franchise up to this point has been warning you the whole damn time that if you get jump scared, that means you get a game over. Well, this game flipped that concept on its head, and as it turns out, you do actually survive, and you get this weird sense of deja vu when Baby or Ennard or fucking I don't know who starts talking to you. Of course, this only works for the first time you play the game, so you could say that the game doesn't age well after the first time, but it's still impressive, god damn it! Everything positive about the horror that goes into the past element also applies here, except for the fact that this thing is
only exclusive to Sister Location for some unknown reason. Maybe Scott Fighter would stand out if it was a one-hit wonder, but either way, it helped this game stay a little more unique than the rest. It had this infuriating knife horror where you would have to wrestle with the spring loss for like half an hour it felt before you would win. Scott quickly fixed that up, but still, that would have been a minus for the game if that was still in the game today, because people can't stand hard games anymore, so that would have been an L moment. I don't have a lot to say in terms of this game's aging without sounding like I'm just repeating the gameplay, so to summarize, the rest of the game features snappy and precise gameplay, plus an additional secret ending per Scott's tradition as always, and the jump scares in that mode are also pretty much placeholders, just so there aren't any PNG jump scares. So to answer the original question I've had at the beginning of the video, how well has FNaF Sister Location aged? And my answer to that is pretty damn good, actually. I'd say it's about twice as good as I remember it being. Most of the segments haven't aged a day, except for that lensing that happens at some points of the game, and the initial knife-free Foxy jump scare, which is designed only to be scary once. I'd say about 95% of the game is as good as it was the day it was released. Also, this game is definitely overhated, and that means I will definitely make a video if FNaF Sister Location's hate is justified.